Hi guys, today we're making the king of all fermented drinks. Yeah, you guessed it, it's kombucha. And since I first tried it a couple of years ago, I've got hooked on it. I love it, and I've been making it almost on a weekly basis thanks to a friend of mine who gave me a SCOBY. The great thing about this drink is that it's very customizable, so it can satisfy every kind of taste. If you want it bitter and a bit more like a beer, you can add hops and all kind of grains. If you want it sweet and flavorful, you can add citrus. Any kind of fruits can go with it. I think these days everybody knows somebody who has a culture. It keeps on multiplying and growing, so you can just get some from your friend, or sometimes even when you buy kombucha from the store, you can culture that SCOBY. A SCOBY is a fantastic thing. It stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. It grows to the size of your container. So I had SCOBYs that were this small because I had them in a jar like this, for example. But if you give it space, it will go circular or square depending on the shape of your container, and then it will grow in thickness as well. And this is how you can multiply it or give it away to people or receive it from somebody else. One thin layer is gonna grow, eat the sugars, and feed itself a bit with the compounds from the black tea, and in no time, literally in weeks, from one thin layer is going to become this thick. There's many uses for the SCOBY. You can dry it up and make it into some kind of a fruit leather, and it's edible like that. If you have too much and nobody to give it to, it does help to remove the old growth, because you want to keep only the healthiest, newest culture that you have. So in case you don't have somebody to give it to, just put it in your garden. You know, take it out, remove it, as many layers as possible, and it's healthy for your garden. It's healthy for your windowsill if you have some flowers. That being said, it's quite a alien, slimy looking thing. You shouldn't be grossed out about it. You can touch it with your hand. Just make sure you kind of sanitize and disinfect your hands. Just make sure that you keep it in glass. It doesn't behave well in some kind of metals, but especially in plastic or any other containers apart from glass. I've seen people keeping it in ceramics and it does quite well. There's specific containers, jars like this with a spigot on the bottle that are specifically made for kombucha, but they're quite expensive, so I'm not saying go and invest a lot of money in this. All you need is a gallon jar like this, or smaller. On its own, just the classic version of kombucha tastes quite nice. I love the taste, the original taste, but some people say it tastes too much like alcohol or yeast. In my experience, because I drink it quite quickly, it doesn't really have a chance to create alcohol. But I've read in some studies that the more you age it, the more it can develop alcohol, just like Kvass. It has improved my health, it makes me feel better, and it's a good alternative to a lot of other drinks. Like, to be honest, it made me kind of quit alcohol, if that makes sense, just because it gives me that fizzy, beer-like taste, and I don't feel the need to drink alcohol anymore. This is my drink of choice now. Maybe I'm an old man. For a gallon of kombucha, we're gonna need a SCOBY. It doesn't have to be as large as ours, it can be a small baby one. You will need 200 grams of white sugar, but you can use any type of natural sweetener like agave, maple syrup, honey. Go natural because it's gonna be better for you in the long run. And also we're using 10 bags of black tea. Get a big pot or a big pan, and you want to boil a gallon of water, yeah? You want it to be boiling before you do anything about it. Once your water is boiling, that's when you want to add your tea bags and also your sugar. Mix it a bit, stop the heat, stop the fire underneath it, and now you'll have to let it infuse and cool down to about body temperature. But to be on the safe side, you want to be about 30 degrees Celsius, just because anything hotter than that may kill the SCOBY. Again, remember, it's alive, so we don't want to put boiling water on top of it. It's going to take a couple of hours. Just forget about it somewhere in a corner. It helps if you have a thermopan or a probe to test the water, but if you don't have a probe or want to be on the safe side, just leave it for about 3-4 hours without the lid, and then you can just use your body, use a finger, or take a sip of it to see if it's warm-ish and not too hot. But if you want to play it safe, just let it cool down fully to room temperature, and that's going to be safe enough. After the tea is cooled down, you want to fish out your tea bags. Now don't throw them in the bin, If you have a planter or a garden space, they can be easily used as an amendment for your soil. As you can see, there's a bit of old juice or old kombucha with the SCOBY. We don't want to leave the SCOBY while it's waiting for the next batch of tea fully dried out or without any liquid. First of all, it needs to be submerged in a bit of liquid to keep it moist. Second of all, it needs to have something to feed on. So even if it's been a week or even two, and that kombucha at the bottom with the SCOBY is quite sour, it still keeps it alive. Yeah. Later we're going to talk about how we can winter our kombucha in case we don't want to do any product for a while, so we can still keep it alive. But once your tea is cooled down and you fished out all your tea bags, you want to put the tea on top of the kombucha in your container, and then put a cheesecloth or a paper towel on top and close it down so no fruit flies or any critters get in, and put it in your fermentation station for 2 to 3 days depending on how hot or how cold your house is. You will see that always the SCOBY will raise to the top as soon as you put the tea inside, because one side is always exposed to oxygen to, you know, be alive and do its thing, and the other side is the one that's doing the fermentation basically, because it's always submerged. That's why we need to, when the SCOBY gets too thick, remove a couple of layers and give it away to make sure that we keep our SCOBY as healthy as possible. We don't want too much dead weight on the SCOBY itself. But 2 days later, your tea should be done with the first fermentation. So now you have the first stage of kombucha. It's good to drink now, it's healthy to drink now, but it's not going to be carbonated. It's going to have just a tiny bit of fizz, because as the SCOBY processes the tea and the sugar, it kind of creates a bit of fizz or a bit of carbonation. If you want it to be really carbonated and sparkling, then while you bottle it, while you put it in your containers, you want to add a bit of extra sugar, or you want to add some fruits to flavor it. Now you can do both. You can add a bit of sugar or sugar syrup like we're doing, and some kind of fruits to flavor it and get maximum carbonation. Just make sure that you don't add too much sugar, because in a couple of hours that, you know, the bacteria inside of the kombucha are going to create so much carbonation that if you don't have fermentation grade bottles like this, you risk of having a massive explosion and a huge mess in your house. So with that being said, try to use fermentation grade bottles. They're not expensive. You can buy them online. Plastic bottles that you had fizzy drinks, sparkling water or soda, that they're gonna work fine as well, because they're actually made to keep carbonated drinks inside. So not super healthy to use plastic, but if you don't have anything else, you can do that as well. The disadvantage of using the big bottles is that once you open it, you have to drink it really quick, because you're gonna lose all of that carbonation. Whereas with a smaller bottle like this, half a liter, once you open it, you will have more chances of drinking one of this in one go than 2 liters or as big of a plastic bottle as you have. So take these things into consideration, and I always encourage people to do the second fermentation, because let's face it, we like fizzy drinks, and if you want an alternative to beer and you want to, you know, put hops and all kind of other bitter tasting herbs inside, then you will want the second fermentation. Before we go into tasting our finished product, I just want to make you aware that this SCOBY is going to multiply. So it's very common that in bottles like this, after a day or two, you're going to see a small growth happening. Don't worry, that's not any fungus or that's not any mold. It's actually a baby SCOBY, and you will see this sometimes even in kombucha bought from the shops, from the stores. You know, if it's done properly, if it's done in a healthy organic way, you can actually get a SCOBY from buying kombucha from the shop if you don't have anybody that can actually, you know, help you and give it to you. So don't worry or don't get scared if you see something growing inside of it. If it's slimy and a bit pale cream in color, then it's a baby SCOBY, and you can give it to somebody or start another culture if you want to have like huge amounts of kombucha. Now if you follow the steps and you have a batch of kombucha, then we can, you know, toast together and enjoy it. This one is the simple one without any flavors, just the classic kombucha taste, and it's quite fizzy, but not as fizzy as the ones that we added some fruits to it. So quite sweet. I think the reason why it's not super fizzy is because it didn't have enough time to you know, digest the sugar and create the carbonation. They both got bottled at the same time and they spent about 20 hours at room temperature. Normally I enjoy them cold from the fridge because it has a bit of a, I don't know, more refreshing taste, but they're really good as like this room temperature, and it's fizzy enough to actually give you that satisfaction of drinking a fizzy drink. The one that had actually put orange pulp and juice, freshly squeezed, and pear pulp, ripe. So you can hear this one is much more active and much more fizzy than the simple recipe. Ooh. It really tickles the tongue. It's not as sweet as the original version. The bacteria got more active in this one. Maybe the fruits help. You can really taste a lot of the orange, not as much the pear. So maybe pear and orange, learn from me, not the best combination, but that's the beauty about this. You can do all kind of crazy combos. After almost 2 years, now I'm just trying all kind of crazy stuff to see what works for my taste. I love it. My wife doesn't, because it tastes too much like beer or like alcohol or like yeast. I think I love it because more because of the health benefits, but I quite love the taste because it kind of replaced beer in my life and the beer belly and everything that comes with that. I don't know. What?
Nothing.
Well, that beer belly needs to go away slowly. Can I just say, hello, I'm not drinking beer anymore, you go away? It doesn't work like that. Okay. Body shaming. Body shaming.
No!
I would like to say that kombucha makes the beer belly go away, but I have no science to back that up, so I cannot really in good conscience say that. But anyway, I really hope you guys are gonna try this. It's easy, it's available these days because it's super hyped and super appreciated by people all over the world. I don't see any reason why you shouldn't give it a try. Just get yourself a SCOBY and some black tea. You don't have to break the bank. Any ingredient, basic ingredient is gonna work here. So don't go crazy with, I don't know, fermented black teas and expensive sugars and stuff like that. Start and see if you like it first. Let me know in the comments if you like it. If you don't, what flavors you think would go well with this, and just stimulate my imagination, because I'm always looking to try different things. I brew like 2 batches a week. That's how much kombucha I drink. I think it's like half of my liquid intake these days. I don't know if it's just in my head, but I really feel better from consuming it on a regular basis. And there's a lot of studies out there that show that fermented drinks have a positive impact on your immune system, anti-cancer properties, you name it, they do it. So I'll stop babbling about it now because I'm a fanboy. But if you like this video and you found it useful, it always helps to give it a like and to subscribe so you stay in tune with us for more videos like this, because now we're on a marathon of fermented foods and cured foods, homemade, self-sufficient, self-reliant, positive attitude about all of this craziness that is happening around us. And with that being said, see you next time. Beer belly, huh?